Coming up, we're going to count down the top 10 songs of this very same week from the year 1983. After we count them down, we're going to recalibrate them. As you know, we'll revise them based on their all-time performance since then. We're going to show you what the real top 10 is. Plus, we're going to give you exclusive artist commentary on the songs. And we're going to include your memories, your dedications. So who is the real number one? Is it David Bowie? Is it Daryl Hall John Oates? Maybe Pat Benatar, John Mellencamp? Maybe a one-hit wonder, or possibly an ex-Beatle. Let's find out next. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Make sure to subscribe below right now to be a part of our Music History Daily, straight from the artists. And do check us out on Patreon. The link is below. And also our brand new entries in our Vintage Years collection for merch. So it's time for another edition of our show, the Hit Song Redux. This is my favorite show we do on here. This is where we travel back to a week in the golden era of the rock and roll era and re-rank the top 10 songs of that specific week based on their legacy since their peak position on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, just to clarify, this is not my top 10. This is the actual top 10 from this same week in 1983. And as always, we include your stories, your dedications, and you get a first-hand look with what the artists themselves have to say about their own songs. This show is, of course, a tribute to my hero, Casey Kasem. So this time we travel back to December of the year 1983, like I said. So it's been 39 years. Back then, movie theaters at this time, you could catch Tom Cruise in one of his earliest roles, All the Right Moves.
Tom Cruise is Stefan Georgevich, a kid whose dreams are bigger than the town.
Or you could see the multi-Oscar winning The Right Stuff, which actually bombed at the box office, but it picked up steam on home video.
These are the men who had the right stuff.
Or, of course, the all-time holiday classic, A Christmas Story. That was in theaters.
MGM presents A Christmas Story.
On TV, you could catch the first season of Fraggle Rock. Still love that as a kid.
Down at Fraggle Rock.
Love Connection.
This is Joel.
The A-Team.
The A-Team.
And Friday Night Videos, my favorite.
Tonight on Friday Night Videos.
Or you could run to the mall and watch parents kill each other, literally, to try to get a Cabbage Patch Kid for their children.
When the doors opened at this Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania store, the pushing and shoving began.
So let's get into the countdown. Coming in at number 10, it's the smooth-voiced, cross-dressing Brit and his colorful band, Culture Club, with their lead-off single from their quadruple platinum sophomore album, Color by Numbers. The song, of course, Church of the Poison Mind. Harbingers of the new pop movement that swept through the UK charts in the early 80s. Culture Club consisted of Boy George on vocals, Roy Hay on guitar and keyboards, Mikey Craig on bass, and John Moss on drums. Their first album, Kissin' to Be Clever, featured the number 2 US hit, Do You Really Want to Hurt Me?
Do you really want to hurt me?
And then they followed that up with another number 2 song, Time Clock of the Heart. By this time, Boy George was one of pop's major talking points, with his dreadlocks, his makeup, and his androgynous persona. The launch of MTV ensured that many UK acts were infiltrating the US charts, and the colorful persona of George, coupled with the irresistible charm of Culture Club's melodies, effectively broke them in America early in 1983. Church of the Poison Mind helped push this success forward. It was a stomping, Tamla, Motown-style song with Helen Terry singing backing vocals. Now, although Church of the Poison Mind would peak at number 10 in the US, it actually reached number 2 in the UK. It was only kept from the top spot by David Bowie's Let's Dance. Church of the Poison Mind actually reached its peak position the same week their next single, Karma Chameleon made its debut on the Hot 100. And of course, that's where they reached their commercial peak. Karma Chameleon going to #1. Color by Numbers was a UK chart topper and only missed the top spot in the US thanks to Michael Jackson's Freight Train Thriller. Okay, coming in at #9, it's a heartland rocker who has over the years gone by many different names. Talking about John Mellencamp with Crumbling Down. Crumbling Down was the first single from following up his previous hit, Hand to Hold On To, that came from 1982's big seller American Fool. Was Mellencamp's 7th album, and it was actually the first one to use his real last name. He did 2 albums as Johnny Cougar, then 4 as John Cougar. And then Mellencamp finally had enough clout to force his record company to add his real surname to his stage name. It was recorded in just 16 days, the album, It was raw, thin, and sharp-edged. Crumbling Down would be the last song cut for the album. It was written by Mellencamp and longtime writing partner George Green, who had previously helped out on Hurt So Good. After listening to the masters for the album's other tracks, John Mellencamp decided that he needed a song to be the record's lead single. So he contacted Green, who had started a song about walls crumbling down. The pair then built the song by trading lines. They were attempting to top one another. According to Green, Crumbling Down attempts to answer the question of what to do when success eventually fades and the big-time deals fall through. The song touches on Mellencamp's fame as well as the frustrations of losing one's livelihood. Actually, the lyrics in part were inspired by Mellencamp's cousin losing his job as an electrical engineer. So it came from a real thing there. Okay, going into the #8 position, you have a bar band who blended new wave, doo-wop, and rock so perfectly. It's Huey Lewis and the News with one of my favorites, Heart and Soul. Heart and Soul is the first single off one of the biggest blockbuster albums of the 80s, Sports. We've talked about it a few times on here. If you're keeping track, that's actually the 3rd leadoff single in a row on this countdown. Heart and Soul is definitely one of my favorite songs from the 80s. Although it topped out at #8, Heart and Soul lit the fuse that pushed Sports up to the top of the charts and made this band a household name. It wasn't written by Huey Lewis. It was cut by 3 different bands. Heart and Soul did make Sports one of only 5 albums that went to #1 in 1984, one of the most competitive years in pop music history. Here's what Huey Lewis said about it.
First of all, that song, interestingly, was the last thing we recorded for Sports. We knew we needed a hit. We knew Mike Chapman. I had asked him if he had any songs, and he sent me this tune. I said, wow, this is a hit, you know. Let's just do it. And so we did that just to kind of cover our base, you know.
The hit song Redux is sponsored by Zenni Eyewear, the only choice for stylish frames. Make sure to go to the App Store, download the brand new Zenni app where you can take advantage of their latest deals and you can design your own glasses on the fly. It's a great app. Try Zenni today. So coming in at #7, we have a remake of a 70s Slade hit coming from what many claim to be the first #1 heavy metal album. It's Come On Feel the Noise by Quiet Riot. Come on, feel the noise. Girls, rock your boat. And when struggling heavy metal rockers Quiet Riot got their big break with Spencer Proffer at Pasha Records, they found themselves in a precarious situation. Proffer had agreed to pay for their studio time and let them record 3 of their songs, but in exchange, they had to record a song of his choosing. That song was Slade's Come On Feel the Noise. Here's the thing, lead singer Kevin Dubrow, he hated it. You know, he saw himself as the consummate songwriter. If he didn't write it, he didn't really want to sing it. So knowing how much Kevin disliked this song, Quiet Riot drummer Frankie Banali, he hatched a plan to sabotage it in the studio. Personally, the song didn't bother him, but he figured if they didn't rehearse it and told Spencer Proffer that they had, it would be a giant train wreck in the studio. And then maybe Proffer would give up on it. So when recording day arrived, they launched into the unrehearsed song. However, it ended up sounding amazing, and Proffer actually loved it. Afterwards, Kevin yanked Frankie aside and got in his face. He's like, what was that? And turns out their scheme had backfired because they never really decided who was supposed to mess up on the song. And Kevin was pissed, but Frankie was smiling, trying to hold back the laughter. Why didn't you screw up the vocals? He knew that none of them, especially Kevin, wanted to be the one who sucked. So the take was good and it made it onto the album. Come On Feel the Noise would reach number 5 on the Hot 100, which was at the time unprecedented. Its success pushed the album Metal Health to number 1 on the Billboard 200. Not only was it Quiet Riot's big break, but it paved the way for metal's mainstream acceptance in the 80s. Many say it. So you think I got a funny face? I got no worries. Now, a lot of our viewers had commented on this particular song. Screen name LawDog327 said, I was around 12. Me and some of my friends made some guitar props out of cardboard and painted them up. We took to my backyard patio and put on a show for the whole neighborhood. Our number 1 hit that night, Come On Feel the Noise. I love that. Great memories from the 80s. Viewer David Kiefer said, when Quiet Riot came out, I would ride my Mongoose BMX bike around the neighborhood at 12 years old with my boombox in one hand, blasting Come On Feel the Noise. A few months later, they came to town and I saw them with Wasp opening for them. That was my first concert. I was 100% hooked on metal from that day forward. I love these stories. The Keymaster, screen names, Keymaster said, as a kid, all of us were blown away by Quiet Riot when Come On and Feel the Noise came out. But what shocked me the most was when my dad came home with the 45 and threw it on his turntable. My dad had an incredible stereo that was much nicer than what my brother and I had. So when the old man dropped the needle on the record, my brother and I thought it was just the coolest thing ever. Gosh, great story. It sounds like my dad. Cool stuff. Moving into the number 6 position on the countdown, it's a recent Rock and Roll Hall of Famer who waited years to get in, even though she should have been on the first ballot, let's be honest. We have Pat Benatar and Love is a Battlefield. Love is a Battlefield was written for Benatar by the great Mike Chapman and Holly Knight. She's amazing. Chapman was already an established songwriter, but Knight was just getting started at that point. However, she would catch on quick and she'd soon be working with a long list of big name artists. There was Aerosmith and Ozzy Osbourne, Bon Jovi, Bonnie Tyler, Tina Turner, Meatloaf, Hall & Oates, and Rod Stewart, just to name a few. Collaborating with them, she would have several top 10 hits on the Hot 100. Here's the story of how she got things rolling with Love is a Battlefield.
One of the things that I learned about songwriting is it's very important to spend time on the lyrics. You know, don't just accept the first thing that you come up with unless it's brilliant, because once it's out there forever, you know. Love is a battlefield. So we pretty much, I had the chords to the song in my head already. I just sat down and I started playing them to Mike
Chapman.
And then we just started to play on that, and that became like the nucleus of the chorus. The ja da da ba da bum ba ba.
And here's what our viewers had to say about this song. Screen name XOXXO Bob said, I remember watching the video for Love is a Battlefield by Pat Benatar and thinking what a powerful video about a disturbing subject. Yet she still kept it classy. A viewer, David Valencia, said, "Love is a Battlefield speaks to me. Reminds me of going to rent movies at Blockbuster on Saturday nights as a kid. Also having some good old Peter Piper pizza while watching A Nightmare on Elm Street." It's so cool. We didn't have Peter Piper pizza. Maybe some of you had that. You'll have to let me know in the comments. Share some of these regional 80s stories.
Get a large cheese pizza for only $2.95. That's right, $2.95. So come on over to Peter Piper Pizza.
All right, halfway through the countdown, we're at the number 5 position where everyone's favorite duo is set up, ready to capture the top spot. Talking about Daryl Hall and John Oates with Say It Isn't So. Now, you might recall that Say It Isn't So, that was released by RCA Records as the first of 2 new singles from the duo's compilation album, Rock and Soul Part 1. The other single was Adult Education. Both were hits. Only there was no Rock and Soul Part 2. That always confused me, because the band had enough hits to fill up at least 2 or 3 more greatest hits albums. Say It Isn't So peaked at number 2 on the Hot 100 for a while. Just couldn't get over the hump, though. Stayed there for over a month, coincidentally behind another song that started with the word say, and it was written and performed by another duo. Try to guess what it is. We'll get to that one a little later on today's countdown. But Daryl Hall and John Oates would actually have 6 number 1 singles in their entire career. But Say It Isn't So was their only number 2 hit. Here's what John Oates said about the song.
Daryl and I have a very unique way of doing background vocals. People have always commented over the years. It's just a thing, you know, it's a Philadelphia thing. It's a certain way of singing. A lot of times our background vocals are actually our chorus.
Okay, heading into the number 4 spot, it's one of the decade's biggest duets that paired a couple of country legends written by the Bee Gees. Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton with Islands in the Stream.
Islands in the stream, that is what we are.
Islands in the Stream was written by the Bee Gees, and it was written as an R&B song. As Maurice Gibb explained, they originally wrote it for Marvin Gaye. But around this time, the Bee Gees couldn't get arrested. They were really focused on songwriting because their look and their sound had gone out of style with the demise of disco a few years before. But that didn't mean the group couldn't write for a variety of genres. I mean, they proved it with Islands in the Stream.
How can we be wrong? Sail away with me.
Title actually came from an Ernest Hemingway story that was published in 1970. Islands in the Stream topped the Hot 100 for 2 weeks, the country chart for 2 weeks as well, and adult contemporary, that chart for 4 weeks. It was a triple threat.
And we rely on each other.
Here's what Kenny said about it.
I went in, so we're in the studio. I owned a studio in LA. And we go in there and we're recording, and I'm singing it, and I'm singing it. Finally, I looked at Barry and I said, "Barry, I don't even like this song anymore." And I swear, he said, like, "We need Dolly Parton," just like that. And my manager at the time was Ken Cragen. He said, "I just saw her downstairs." I said, "Well, go get her." So he went down there, and Dolly came marching in the room. And once she came in, the song was never the same.
All right, we're getting closer to the number 1 spot. Any guesses? Comment right now to see if you can get it right. No cheating. Okay, so the number 3 spot, that's taken up this week by piano man Billy Joel. His love letter to model Christy Brinkley, Uptown Girl. But actually, many have assumed for years that Uptown Girl was written about Christy Brinkley, but in actuality, it was written about model Elle Macpherson. Joel dated both, but he married Christy. The lyrics of the song describe a working-class downtown man who attempts to win the favor of a wealthy uptown girl. A lot of people misjudge this song. It was written as an homage to Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, actually. If you listen to it that way, it has a whole new meaning. Uptown Girl came from Billy Joel's Night Studio album, An Innocent Man, and it had the #1 single, Tell Her About It.
Tell her about it. Tell her everything you feel.
In the top 20 hits the longest time.
For the longest time. Whoa.
An Innocent Man.
An innocent man.
And Keeping the Faith.
Yeah, keeping the faith.
One of his best pop albums. Christy was the Uptown Girl in the video, of course. But like I said, Joel was actually dating Elle Macpherson when he started writing this song. In 1987, the self-deprecating Joel would actually say, "The fact that I can attract such a beautiful woman as Christy should give hope to every ugly guy in the world." Touche, Billy. Coming in at the runner-up position, The Bridesmaid, the good old #2. Second place, it's the collaboration that I hinted at earlier. One that involves two of the biggest names in music history coming together. It's Say, Say, Say by Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson.
Just look at my face, there's tears and crying.
Say, Say, Say was one of 3 duets that McCartney and Jackson worked on together. The other 2 were The Girl Is Mine, which appeared on Thriller in '82. It was the first single off that.
Doggone girl is mine.
And The Man, which landed with Say, Say, Say on McCartney's album Pipes of Peace.
This is the man.
The Superstars actually got together when Jackson called McCartney on Christmas Day in 1980 to propose a collaboration. And Jackson flew to England in the autumn of 1981, where they worked up Say, Say, Say.
Say, say, say what you want, but don't.
The following April, McCartney came to LA and they finished recording the song and they shot the video for it.
I sit home by the phone, waiting for you.
Although the song was ridiculed by critics, I loved it as a kid. It ultimately expanded both artists' audiences. I mean, you think about it, Jackson drew some of McCartney's more seasoned listeners, and McCartney broke through to Jackson's younger fans. Thriller was still kicking out singles when Say, Say, Say was released. It would reach #1 on December 10th, much to the dismay of Daryl Hall and John Oates. This gave the king of pop 7 top 10 singles alone in 1983, and 3 #1s. The other 2 being Beat It and Billie Jean. Here's what our viewers had to say about this particular song. Viewer Rita Rollins said, "I was raised on the Beatles and Wings and loved them all. Rock was the only music in our house and I grew up to love it myself. When I heard Say, Say, Say for the first time, it was like hearing Paul McCartney for the first time for me."
Take what you need, but don't.
No John, no Linda. I was like, dang, this is Paul stripped down. I was completely oblivious to Michael Jackson. It may as well have been a solo.
Let go, go where you want, but don't.
Viewer Eric B. Gordon said, "One of my favorite memories concerning Say, Say, Say was from roughly the year after Paul McCartney came out with Pipes of Peace. My family was at a disco-themed family function in Pennsylvania, which included live musicians. Somewhere in the middle of this evening, this song was played, and the primary vocalist was singing the melody an octave below McCartney's range. I was only 4 years old at the time, but that was something to remember." I had a similar memory about that when I asked a band at a wedding to play The Power of Love when I was a kid. It was really cool. Anyway, viewer Mark Lewis said, "Say, Say, Say was one of the first videos I ever saw. I was in 2nd grade and a huge Michael Jackson fan. I was watching Friday night videos hoping to see a Michael song, preferably Beat It or Billie Jean, and I got stuck with the last one I'd want to see, a duet with Paul McCartney."
Just look at my face, there's tears and crying.
Okay, it's time to unveil the #1 song for this very same week in '83. Written by a man who once had 9 years straight with a #1 hit. It's the legendary Commodore himself, Lionel Richie, with All Night Long, All Night, parentheses song. All Night Long, All Night was the lead single from his 2nd solo album, Can't Slow Down, just a blockbuster. It combined Ritchie's soulful Commodore style with some lively Caribbean influences. Ritchie said, "It was the first time I've ever written a song where I didn't have a hook. It took me months to find one. If the song is called Easy, you write easy first, then you work from there. I wrote everything. Well, my friend, the time has come. Fiesta forever, and I still didn't have a hook." But after working on the track for months, Ritchie finally had his aha moment one night while he was dining with his friend, Lloyd Gregg, a Jamaican-born physician. I guess as Ritchie left that dinner to go to the studio, he told his friend in a Jamaican accent, "I'm going back to work all night long." Then he said, "Wait a minute, all night long?" Lionel had his hook. Ritchie's friend looked at him like he was nuts. According to Ritchie, sometimes by not thinking, you find exactly what you want. After grabbing the top spot on the Hot 100, All Night Long, All Night went on a tear. It became a cultural phenomenon. Ritchie even performed the song at the closing ceremonies of the '84 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, if you remember that. Come on now. All night long. Well, there you have it, the top 10 songs from this same week in 1983. But before we put them in our recalibration process, I do want to take a look at a few other songs that were in the Hot 100 that very same week, but they never made it to the top 10. I think we ought to consider these. Down the charts, you had The Police with Synchronicity 2. Great song from the #1 album of the same name. That was at number 19. It peaked at 16. And you also had Journey with their magnificent ballad, Sender My Love. That was at number 28. It would peak at number 23. So adding those two hits in, let's see where we land. I'll just put them on through our recalculation system, and let's see what happens. Drum roll, please. Okay, in at number 10, it's Heart and Soul by Huey Lewis and the News, turning in 39 million streams. Next at number 9 is The Police with Synchronicity 2 with 43 million streams. And number 8 is Journey with the ballad Center My Love, 59 million streams. And number 7 is Daryl Hall and John Oates coming in with a respectable 128 million streams. And number 6, tumbling 4 spots, it's Say, Say, Say by McCartney and Jackson with 188 million streams. Say, say, say what you want, but don't. I thought that would have done better. Halfway through the countdown at number 5, it's Pat Benatar and Love is a Battlefield checking in with 228 million streams. And at number 4, with an impressive 347 million streams, it's Come On Feel the Noise by Quiet Riot. Come on, feel the noise. Girls rock. At number 3, we have the Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton duet, Islands in the Stream, turning in 424 million streams. Islands in the stream, that is what we are. At number 2, in the runner-up position, it's the former number 1, All Night Long, falls down to number 2 by Lionel Richie. Has 455 million streams. It's a new number 1. The new number 1 song belongs to the Piano Man, Billy Joel. Uptown Girl closes in. It's almost at 1 billion streams, 885 million streams and counting. Actually, Uptown Girl went to number 1 in the UK, but it never went to number 1 here in America. So Billy has the number 1 spot. Very cool. And just to add insult to injury, here's a comparison of a few of these classic hits in contrast to the big songs of today's top 10 for the year 2022.
Can you do something for me? 21. Can you hit a little rich flex for me? Everyone you meet, they're jamming in the street all night long. Under the suburban family morning, it must be exhausting.
exhausting, always rooting for the anti-hero. We are young. Heartache.
All right, so there it is, the new top 10 from this very same week in good old 1983, based on all-time streams and views. Make sure that you share your memories of these songs below. What do you think about this new top 10, about the new number 1? Now, if we didn't get to your dedication or your memory, keep sharing them with us in the comments. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe below. Don't forget to check us out on Patreon and our merch. It helps us to keep this a daily channel. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.